Hey folks, this is EJS, and I wanted to provide a quick outline of why you should listen to this podcast. So first, this is an interview with Stephen Davis, the CEO and co-founder or founder of Fremedica, which makes a device called the Wave One that fills in a hugely important gap in those dealing with Lyme, Lyme co-infections, mold, chronic fatigue, by re-educating the immune system and helping the body reestablish cell-to-cell communication. If there's anything I've learned in my own journey is that healing takes place across many lines: biochemical, structural, energetically. And I think what Fremedica is doing here with the Wave One is sort of like on this information level plane, helping again reorient the body. So some of the topics that we cover in the podcast and the video today are how Stephen became interested in Lyme, even though he personally did not have the condition, why it took 8 years to get an official Lyme diagnosis for his daughter and her two kids, what conventional alternative Lyme treatments, if any, did they try during this period, some of the wildest and wacky, sketchy things Stephen and his family explored during their healing journey. The details of my own health journey, including my dental accident as a kid, tons of antibiotics, many gut challenges, and eventual discovery of Bartonella co-infection and maybe perhaps a little bit of Lyme. What are the specific events and people that got Stephen interested in this idea of frequency for health and healing? Why Lyme is so challenging to discover and treat. Hint, it mimics over 300 health challenges. How the Wave One is different from the zillion frequency devices out there in the market. What limits success with the Wave One? In other words, if you try it, why might not you have a good experience? And it really has to do with just being consistent and using it every day. What therapies complement the Wave One? What a user should expect when using the technology, and of course, a discount code for 10% off a Wave One device. So, hope that helps. Enjoy the podcast. Thanks. All right. Hello, everyone. This is EJS from Thrivality.com, and I am super excited to have Stephen Davis, the CEO of Fremedica, on today's podcast. As many of you know, my mission and passion is to help those dealing with complex illness find radical transformation in 90 days or less. It's a big, hot, hairy, audacious goal. But when people dealing with Lyme or mold, bounce from practitioner to practitioner and they spend tens of thousands of dollars, they end up bankrupt and they don't feel any better, that's a big problem that I'm hoping to kind of punch a hole in. And so I'm excited to have Stephen here today because I'm getting these emails. Can you hear those emails come through?
Nope.
Like you can't. Okay. And I'm super excited to have Stephen here to perhaps explore a different side of healing that many may not be familiar with. This side of frequency healing, and so we're going to cover a number of things of how Stephen got on this path and what led to the creation of his devices. But his two daughters and two grandsons were diagnosed with Lyme over 12 years ago, and so Stephen began researching various treatment options with little success. And so he began working with Stuart Gross, who was working on a technology using light to deliver frequencies to the body and recover proper cell function. And so we're going to dive into that whole journey and what eventually led to the Wave One device that's targeted for those dealing with Lyme. So, Stephen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess let's just take it from the top and share a little bit your story. You've been on this journey for over a year, 12 years now. How did you get interested in Lyme? I mean, I sort of queued it up with, your daughter's and your granddaughter's illness, but tell us the story.
Well, what happened was my daughter was sick for 12 years, one daughter. And during that 12 years, the first 8 years, we chased everything that we could think of to chase, not knowing that it was Lyme disease. We were just going from doctor to doctor to try and find out what was wrong with my daughter. During that first 8 years, she had two sons, and both of them had significant health issues. And so we just accepted them. And when I say significant, one was diagnosed to be autistic at 3.5. And we just accepted what the doctors were telling us as, that's what we have to deal with in life. And we're just going to love our grandson and move forward. And there wasn't a lot that we thought we could do. But 8 years into it, I convinced a doctor at one of the universities here in BC to run some tests. And so they ran some tests on my daughter, and they came back and said that they found a couple markers that would lead them to think that they might have Lyme disease. And my response was, what's Lyme disease? Never even heard of it before. It wasn't even on my radar. Never brought up by one doctor as a possibility that she could have Lyme. So 8 years into it, we discover what it is. It's Lyme disease. And so as a family, we're happy.
And you have a diagnosis.
Yeah, we know what it is. Let's go fix it. And 2 years later, we're still doing like everybody else, trying to find ways to fix it.
Hey folks, this is EJS from Thrivality.com, and I just wanted to interrupt this podcast and video to share my experience with the Wave 1 device and technology. I actually recorded this podcast several weeks ago. Life got busy, and I wanted to actually wait to have my experience with the device. And now I'm in week 10 of using it, and I'm pleased to report that it works as advertised. My energy's up, my mental clarity has improved, my sleep has been enhanced, and I've actually put on a couple of pounds. And so I'm thrilled to report that the device works as advertised. Now, it's not the only thing I've done, or it's not the only thing I've added, during the last 10 weeks or so, but I've been at this game long enough to know that I wouldn't have made this progress, without this incredible technology that fills a really big gap in re-educating and sort of reminding the body and the immune system and how to establish or reestablish optimal cell-to-cell communication. So if you've dealt with Lyme or mold or complex illness, I strongly encourage you to give the Wave 1 device a try. See the show notes for discount code. You won't regret it. Thanks. Hey folks, and I should add that Fremedica, the manufacturer of the Wave 1 device, has a 6-month return policy, which is just unheard of and absolutely incredible, providing you with little risk for giving this incredible technology a try. So I hope that context helps in your decision-making process. Thanks. And the discount code, which I failed to mention, it's THRIVE. Visit Fremedica.com and use the discount code THRIVE. That's FREMEDICA.com. And that's one E. So FREMEDICA.com, and use the discount code THRIVE for 10% off. Thanks.
Yep. With no success. They just kept getting worse. And then I met Stuart Gross, and he was working on a technology using some light and for some of his patients. He wasn't building something to go to market with. He was just doing whatever he could do to help people that came into him to see him that had Lyme disease. And so I got a hold of that technology, and we ran a little trial. We reconfigured it, did a few things, and if it didn't work, 90 days after, my daughter is feeling fantastic. Her kids have shifted based on the results we were getting from their teachers at school, and life just became good for them. And so I could have stopped then. I had my other businesses that I was running, but over that period of time, there were so many people that we met with Lyme disease, and we saw the devastation that were coming against these families, not just physical problems, but their bank accounts were being drained. Yeah. They were splitting up in families because some believe that it might be Lyme and some doesn't believe that Lyme even exists, because when you research it, it becomes very fuzzy on what's real when it comes to Lyme disease, especially with governments and the medical community. And so we just moved forward with that and decided that let's go and turn this into a little bit of a device that we can get it on the people, because the way it was set up, you had to come into a clinic for 3 weeks, 30 minutes a day over a 3-week to 90-day period. And that's just not feasible.
Right. It's really hard.
That's right. And that's when we got creative, and we ended up coming up with this little wearable that you just strap on, and it goes wherever you go. And it's doing the job. It's helping people get better.
So the original device was much larger, and yeah, and you had to sit next to it 30 minutes every day for a minimum of 3 weeks, more than likely 90 days. And now you've got it down to a little handheld.
A little where, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've got mine right here. So yeah, super excited. Okay, so I'm curious. So you start on this journey during the first 8 years. Did you try conventional treatments or alternative or a mix of both during that period?
Well, the first 8 years we didn't know it was Lyme, and
Got
so
it. Okay,
we weren't being able to treat anything because nobody gave us a diagnosis.
got it. So once you got the diagnosis, then you spent 2 years.
That's right.
Got
And we started going out and looking at what everybody else is doing. And we didn't go and duplicate the treatments because other people weren't getting better with what they were doing.
So you're smart, right? You're not doing the same thing, you're expecting a different result, which is what a lot of people end up doing because that's what everybody else is doing, right? And yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So we went down, started looking at different alternatives. Not that there was an alternative out there, but different ways that we could create an alternative for
smart.
ourselves, because what was there wasn't working.
So you knew right early on that kind of what was available for Lyme wasn't fully the answer.
That's what we learned that over a 2-year period. It took us 2 years to go out because there's really, nobody wants to even talk about Lyme. And so it just became a difficult journey.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So did you try during those 2 years, what other alternative therapies did you try?
Well, I think the main one that were different types of antibiotics that my daughter was doing. We did brain therapy where there's a technology that we were using out of Arizona, trying to bring balance to the system using frequencies. Mm-hmm. And so that started to open up our thinking on how to go about getting some relief from this disease. And so we started going down that path using frequency technology.
Okay. And were those frequency technology, so they had some promise that piqued an interest? Is that kind of?
We would get the odd glimpse of something working, but it would never stick. That was the problem, because the frequencies that we were trying, they weren't specific to Lyme disease.
I see.
And so they were, chasing some of the co-infections or some of the symptoms, but it wasn't dealing with the underlying cause.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you sort of segue into, more alternative treatments, it can get a little wild and wacky. Was there anything super sketchy that you tried that you scratched your head at before you tried it?
Everything was super sketchy. I went to one place and, the gentleman said that it got him free from Lyme and his daughter free from Lyme, but he had burns on his arm where like it was really sketchy what he was doing, but people get desperate.
Yeah.
Like you get desperate, and when something's not working, you start trying things. And if you don't have the experience, that's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll just segue and talk a little bit about my journey here, and then I think we'll kind of jump to wave one and what it's doing and how it works. But as a young kid, I was, my journey didn't start with Lyme, as far as I know, in terms of dealing with my health issues. But I had a dental injury as a child in a swimming pool, and so I really smashed up the front part of my my jaw, and so I had a lot of antibiotics as a kid. And then I had these reoccurring infections into adulthood that would lead to more antibiotics and an abuse of NSAIDs because I had such incredible pain at times. And I didn't know anything at this time, right? I'm just I'm in my 20s at this point. And then I had one of these flare-ups again. I had moved to Boston, and doctor put me on more antibiotics, and I really took a hit on that round of antibiotics. I just couldn't get my my energy back, and so that really catapulted me. I was already in a diet. I was already doing probiotics at this point. This is 20 years ago, and really kind of catapulted me on my journey. And sort of as I've gone through and peeled the onion, recently we discovered that I tested positive for some species of Borrelia and Bartonella. Bartonella was primary. Borrelia was sort of a subcategory. So do I have officially Lyme? I don't know, but I tested positive for Bartonella, and so I've dealt with the fatigue and the frustration and the gut issues, and so I've been through the mill trying to figure this all out. And I've tried a number of frequency devices with mixed results. Right? They've been helpful, but I wouldn't say they've been, transformational. And so I think that brings us, sort of to the wave one, which I'm super excited because all the devices that I have that are materially, promising aren't anything I can wear and go out. I've got to use them here I could travel with some of them. But this one's, truly, I go to the park, I go for a walk, I go for, light exercise, ride in the car, take it on an airplane, without a lot of trouble. So I'm super excited because it complements, I think, everything else I'm doing, from a supplement and diet and biochemical perspective. So, okay. So you realized it was Lyme, you started working on these frequency devices. Let's start a little bit about Lyme itself, and then we'll dive into the device. So as a person who's been immersed in this world for over a decade, how would you define Lyme?
Well, I define it as a real tricky disease. When you've got something that's mimicking over 300 different diseases, it's extremely difficult to identify.
Yeah.
And come up with the final answer and say, oh, you've got Lyme disease. It's you can't necessarily just put the blame on the medical community with this here, because it's really hard to diagnose.
Yeah.
And so, but once you do diagnose it, then, there's different ways that you can go about it. And the way that we thought about it is all of the co-infections and everything that's going on, it was telling us that your immune system is very compromised. And so instead of going into the body to try and kill something, we didn't go that route because, that's a hard path to go down. And so we looked at the immune system and the best way to support the immune system to help it overcome the issues that it was facing with Lyme disease. And that's been our focus, is helping the immune system. Bringing balance and communication to your system seems to be bringing an answer to overcoming Lyme disease.
Yeah, I think that's just super genius, right? Because most of the approaches, whether it's biochemical or frequency, are really focusing on trying to eliminate the Lyme, right? And Lyme is super. I've seen videos of the spirochetes, when they're sensing attack or they're sensing an antibiotic, they literally can inject their DNA into a cyst. They go into cyst form, and then they're protected from the antibiotic or whatever you're trying to throw at it. And they're very difficult. They're smart, right? They're here to survive, and they trying to eliminate them has been, I think, challenging. Right?
That's right. We just looked at it a little differently. That's all.
Yeah. All right. And why do you think Lyme cases are exploding? Like, it started in the East Coast and now you're in British Columbia and it's come out your way. Like, it seems like it's a modern society, so we're traveling. So that's part of it. But like, why do you think it's exploding?
Well, people are more exposed. It's used to be in a region, they thought. And, I've had doctors say, well, no, in a province here in Canada, well, you can't have Lyme disease because we don't have ticks. Well, that's just naivety. Of course there's ticks. But this is called a tick-borne disease, but I think that there's many ways that you can also get Lyme disease, and it's just getting broader and broader and more exposed. I've got a friend that lives in Boston, and we helped his wife overcome Lyme disease by the way we approach the immune system. And he said to me one day, he says, every day I go to get wood, I wonder if this is going to be the day that I'm getting Lyme disease. It's because ticks, they're really bad on the eastern.
Super bad. Yeah.
And so I think that it's, people are getting out more. I think that everything has increased in numbers. And I just think that that's why you're seeing more and more. And we're getting a little bit smarter as far as what we're looking for. So people are noticing it more. I think that there's so many people walking around with Lyme disease thinking it's something else. I think that's a big issue.
Yeah, I can't think of when, I got a tick bite, right? I know I know there are a couple of times specifically I did, but I had the symptoms long before those tick bites. So somehow I got it, and I just didn't.
My grandsons, they were born with it. And so they never got bit by a tick.
Yeah.
They were born with it.
Okay. Now, what do you think about modern stressors? Like people talk about EMFs, lack of exposure to nature, poor diet, chemicals and toxins. Do you think that has a role in, just based on your observation, in causing sort of this to spread and become more endemic?
Well, I don't think that so much the dieting and stuff. I think what happens is our immune, when you live an unhealthy lifestyle, your immune system is going to get compromised. And when it gets compromised, it allows things to come into attack. And I think that that's one of the biggest issues that we face is we're not walking in a healthy state most of the time.
Yeah.
That issue.
Yeah, I think that's a huge factor, right? Is just the fact that, we're less healthy, diets are poor, and we have a lot more stress.
It doesn't mean that you're going to go and eat healthy now and you won't get Lyme or you're going to overcome.
Definitely not. Yeah, definitely
not. Lyme doesn't care.
Yeah.
It just starts attacking your immune system.
Yeah. I mean, somebody close to me, super healthy, in his teens, got bit this past summer, super healthy, and came down with it. Right. So it doesn't know any bounds, I think, in terms of, people that it can impact, but certainly being healthier does help. He's recovered much quicker. So
that's right. And I think that the healthier that you eat, that's almost like attacking the Lyme as well. And so it goes dormant. It'll go into hiding. I don't think that eating healthy is going to help you overcome, but what it does is it just slows down the attack, I believe, from Lyme itself.
Yeah. Okay. So there, as we talked, there's a zillion frequency devices out there, right? There's the biocharger and the amp coil and the beamer, the iArmor Omnium, there's the Somavitic and the Blue Shield, and all these different devices. Either they're protected from EMFs, or they're targeting and promoting health. What makes sort of what you're doing, right, with the Wave 1 different?
Well, first off, I believe that frequencies being used in wellness is brilliant. I think that any technology that's using frequencies is offering up some form of good to the body. The difference between our technology, the Wave 1, and all other frequency devices that are out there, there's a few major differences. One is we don't use the color of light as the frequency. We don't pulse that or create different energy levels with a particular color frequency.
Okay.
And that's what most frequency devices are that are using light. They're just changing that frequency, that color, to do different things to cause a different effect in the body. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that with us, our focus is on one thing: Lyme disease and the co-infections caused by it. That's what our focus is. And these other devices aren't necessarily focused on Lyme disease. They were developed for something else, and then they've gravitated over and they say, well, we can help with some of those symptoms. But you don't see people overcoming the issue with those other technologies, but they've got a place. Frequency technology is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of overcoming, and I was talking to a doctor friend of mine a week ago. They were over for brunch, and she was commenting on how people as adults, like most people with Lyme, end up just coping with it, right? And so this concept of overcoming is really a game changer. I think that's what has me really excited about what you're doing here. Okay, so you're using lights, you're not using the color. And is the light the frequency or the carrier of the frequency?
It's the carrier. So here's how we looked at it when we started bringing this to market.
Okay.
We are developing it. We believe that the body has been created to absorb light. And so that's a good place to start your thinking as far as when you want to penetrate something like frequencies into the body. Then what we did, instead of looking at the different frequencies generated by color, we use light. So this light that's going to come on here, just this one light there, we stack. So this is a red light. And so it's got a specific frequency from that color. But we don't care. That light can be red, white, blue. In fact, Dr. Klinghardt says the white might even be better than the red.
Okay.
And so what we do is we stack frequencies on top of that. And so when we send this, we send our frequency package into the body using this light, if you look at just this light going in, that's one single frequency. What we do is we stack over 70 frequencies on top of that light to carry into the body. And what happens is your cells, they've been designed to retain low energy light. And so when we carry those frequencies into the body, those cells pick them up. And that's when the magic starts happening for us, because it starts waking up your immune system. It starts to bring balance and communication amongst all of the cells. And then the body's able to start to deal with the problem the way it was designed to deal with it in the first place. That was our thinking on, okay, if we're gonna go and support the immune system, how's the best way to get something in the body to do that? And so we think that we've come up with the right way to do that, and the results are speaking for themselves.
Yeah. So how did you figure out which frequencies to sort of put on top of the light?
Well, there's a combination of ways that we've done that. One, it's how you package them. So when you package all these frequencies together, some of them are in a certain order.
Okay.
There's order in your system, and so
there's hierarchy.
That's right. You need to look at it like that. And we have Stuart started with a basic package of things that he was getting a pretty good result. Then we engaged other doctors that approached us because their patients were getting better. And so they approached us and said, we need to better understand what that technology is doing. So when they got closer to us, they ended up getting very close and started helping us tweak our packages a little bit to even make them more effective in areas that we might be missing just a little bit. And sometimes it's not even related to Lyme. It's just that your immune system's so compromised because of the Lyme, it allows other things to come in, like mold. Mold has nothing to do with Lyme disease, but you get exposed to mold when you've got a compromised immune system. Mold can become as bad as Lyme disease.
Right, it certainly can. Yep, or it can trigger Lyme.
So we've had to come at it with the basis that we need to help the immune system deal with the issues at hand, and mold happened to be one of them. And there's a lot of co-infections that are associated with Lyme disease, and I think we're dealing with most of it.
Okay, fascinating. So you've got 4 phases to your program, right? Sort of the phase 1, and each of these are roughly 30 days, right? So, and you can choose to decide to stay longer in a particular phase, right? So I'm in phase 1,
Yeah.
right? Yep. I'm still day 18 or 19, something like that. And you've got phase 2, phase 3, and then I think kind of a maintenance phase or phase 4. So walk us through each phase and what's in each one.
Okay, so the first phase, and it's funny because when we started these, we looked at them as 3 phases, but you can't really look at it so much like that attached to time, because some people can't wear this device for more than a minute at a time.
Wow.
They are so compromised. And so you really need to get to 30 minutes. 30 minutes a day with this device, you're going to be heading in a very good direction.
And 30 minutes, right? So some of these like, when I wear I'm in phase 1. So I get 30 minutes of detox, 30 minutes of stress and anxiety, and then 30 minutes of balance and restore, I think is the 3. And then balance and restore, I can go for 8 hours, right?
Right. But for the first month, we're not even dealing with anything to do with Lyme. We're trying to we're just trying to bring some balance to your system. We want to make it, you need good drainage, because if your immune system kicks in the way we know it's going to, you're going to still get die off. And if you don't have good drainage, it can be uncomfortable. And so what we're trying to do is to prep the body for the first month, just so it can get rid of any die-off that's going to happen. And so we bring balance into your system to get you going in the right direction.
Okay.
The second month would be what we call the second phase, and we're going after just the basic Lyme. And you still have everything that pulled through from phase 1. It's now combined with phase 2.
Got it.
And then as you go through that, you're going to start to hurt a bit, but we do it in a very gentle way. Then you get to phase 3, and we pull everything through again into phase 3. And that's where we go after all of the co-infections and whatever's left with the Lyme.
Okay. So I got a couple clarifying questions there. So when you get to phase 2 and you start to, why do you go after the Lyme first and why not the co-infections?
Because the Lyme, from our perspective, is what's compromised your immune system to begin with. And so how can you deal with other things if your immune system's still so compromised? You still need a healthy immune system to deal with stuff. It doesn't matter if it's co-infections or it doesn't matter what it is. You still have to have an immune system that can deal with it.
Okay.
And so if Lyme's the culprit that's compromising your immune system, well, we need to deal with that first. And so that's what we go after.
Got it. And so in that phase 2, are you going after Lyme and some of the co-infections like
That's right.
Babesia and
That's right.
Bartonella? Okay.
There's a few things in there, and then there's no sense doing it all at once, because
Right.
you just do it over time. We're not putting you in a position where you have to sit in a chair someplace and you're taken out of 90 minutes of your day or whatever that is. We made it so it's very easy for you to follow our instructions, because if you do follow our instructions, you've got a really good chance to get a good piece of your life back. If you don't follow our instructions, well, I'm not sure we're going to be able to offer up and fulfill your expectations that you've got from this device. It's like an antibiotic. If your doctor says you need to take an antibiotic for 7 or 14 days, you go and do that, and you do it every day, because you know if you don't, you're not going to get better. It's no different than most things. If you've got a path to freedom, if you've got a path to get better, you just need to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do along that journey. And if you don't, you're just not going to get better.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So in phase 1, you're sort of laying the groundwork for detoxification and drainage, bringing stability to the body. What else are you doing in phase 1? Anything else you want to highlight for the?
Yeah, you're going to sleep better. Your energy levels are going to shift. There's quite a few little nuances. When you start dealing with certain things, let's say that we just dealt with sleep. If you're getting a good night's sleep,
yeah, so much better. Life is a lot better when you sleep well.
Days are going to be better, right?
Yeah, right.
And so there's a reason why we touch the body the way we do, to cause the effect in lots of different ways, because we think they're all tied together to get you to a good place of general wellness.
Okay. So then in phase 2, you're starting to go after basic Lymes and some of the co-infections. And then in phase 3, it's more aggressive. So it could be Lyme co-infections, Lyme itself, mold, yeast, fungus, bacteria, parasites, viruses. Like you're kind of, at this stage, you're going after the full Monte, right?
That's right. We're going to finish it up.
Okay. All right. And again, you're not going after these critters directly. You're really an enabler. You're a trainer. You're reminding the body of what it inherently knows to do.
That's right. You got to remember what a frequency is. It's a form of energy that's carrying information. And so that's all we're doing, is delivering the right information into the body to help it remember what its job is, right?
Yeah.
We can't do any harm. You can't do any harm with low energy frequencies the way that we do it. That's not something that is even on the radar. Like it can't happen. And so I think that that's one of the real interesting things. It's just about communication. We're bringing the right communication into the body for it to do what it was meant to do. Period.
Awesome. All right. So I think in terms of hierarchy, and particularly in a phase 3 where you're kind of being more aggressive, right? Because, in functional medicine, I'm an FDN. So, when you work with clients, you kind of want to pave pave the highway, right? Right. You talked about doing that in phase 1 and phase 2 and in phase 3. Is there a particular hierarchy within phase 3 that you follow as those frequencies go through the month, or
No,
as the user uses it each day?
from a user point of view, it's plug and play. Just strap it on. There's an app that you go on your computer, and we've got a team that will walk you through all of that. And they're there on a regular basis to be able to answer any questions. Like we don't say, here's a device, go live life. We say, here's a device, let us journey with you and make sure that you get to the place that you hope to get, that we know that we can get you there if you move through the way that we ask you to do it. And that's one of the reasons we give a 6-month return policy, because if we,
which is astounding. I can't think of another device or company I've dealt with that has a 6-month anything return policy. So
that's because we have a different outlook on our business. I didn't go and start this business and say, hey, let's go and solve a disease and go and build a company. We were trying to get my kids' lives back.
Yeah.
And so when we did that, we felt compelled to take that to the industry to be able to help people that are in the same boat as we were. And we have totally overcome 100%. My kids have not experienced any kind of symptoms. My grandson, who's now 13, who was diagnosed to be autistic, he's not autistic. He had Lyme disease.
Wow.
I mean, we got our family back. And so how can you not take this to a marketplace when you know you've got something that can help them overcome something that's just devastating their lives? You can't. You have to move forward.
Yeah.
And so for the 6 months, the reason we moved it from 90 days, it used to be 90 days, because when we started, we were looking at it as a 90-day program. But because people have a hard time sometimes using the device in the beginning because they have to start slower than some, they can't get to where they need to get, where we would know and be able to identify the results in 90 days that they're hoping for. And so we extended that an additional 90 days to give people a chance. If you were to phone me up and say, you know what, it's 3 months into it and I felt a little bit, but I don't know if it's enough for me to keep it, I'd like to return it. What we do is we'll take a look and see how you've used it. So when you plug this device in, our team can look at how often you use it. And so if you use it every day and you're not getting a result, well, we don't know what that, I'm not here to discuss something like that because it very seldom happens. But if you use the device in 90 days and you say, do you think you want to return? We look when you you only use it a week here and a week there. What I'll say to that person then, if you use it the way we ask you to use it, you're going to get better. We have no problem in refunding, taking the product back. But what I would ask you to do is start doing it the way we ask. So let's start today and let's do it every day, exactly the way that we say, and we'll start your 6-month return policy today. And so, because our goal is about getting you better. It's not about, if we were just about money, I would sell you a device and disappear and go off and sell another one to somebody else. That is not who we are as individuals. That's not what our company is about.
Yeah.
We are in a place to do some real good out there, particularly with Lyme disease. And we're doing it. And we've come up with lots of ideas that people are going to hear about one of these days about life after Lyme.
Yeah.
Because there is life after Lyme.
Awesome. Thank you. Amen. I love it. Okay. So Lyme, is not only complex in and of itself, but it can have not only co-infections, but you can have mold, you can have heavy metals, you can have fungus, you can have limbic dysregulation, right? Nervous system gets scrambled. So in the spectrum of all of those, some of those challenges that go along with Lyme, are you supporting kind of all those categories?
Well, no, because we don't look at them as categories where we know that you're compromised, your immune system's compromised. So our approach is always tried and true. Our approach never shifts. We go after to support your immune system. You do that, and those other things that you just named, chances are going to start to fall away and correct. because your immune system is now operating with some balance.
Viruses too, right? Same approach.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Okay. That's fascinating.
You hear that everywhere. People talk about the immune system, but are they really supporting the immune system the way it needs to be supported? And we look at it as it's just the communication is compromised. And so we're just bringing communication back. That's all.
Okay. So how important is diet, supplementation, in, movement, like exercise, in using the Wave 1 for it to be successful?
Well, if this is all you used, you're going to have a good experience. But we don't look at this as a standalone technology, even though that it has huge benefits standalone. This is an awesome tool in any toolbox to help overcome disease, or at least to help you in your general wellness journey, to give you energy and sleep. And like, you start dealing with Lyme disease, you start getting all those other things back, and you just keep getting better.
Okay. All right. So, but if you do the diet and the exercise,
all of that helps.
All that helps. Yeah.
And there's lots of things that you can do, and our team will help them. So that our team will help walk you through all kinds of ideas to help. If you're going to herx, let's minimize that. And there's ways that you can minimize that. And so we try and soften the journey for you, because Lyme can be extremely hard on your system.
Yeah. Well, and your team's been super responsive. I've sent a couple of emails with some questions as I've started to use the Wave, and they've been, within 24 hours, they get back to me. Okay. So what should a user expect when they begin on a journey with Wave?
Well, that's the tough part, because I don't think that there's two individuals that are going to respond exactly the same way with Lyme disease. Like, when you've got a disease that's mimicking over 300 different illnesses, it's just a difficult journey to go down to try and identify some of these things. So yeah, I'm not sure about.
So there's no set pattern, right? But just follow the process. If they have a question, reach out to your team and they'll respond. Yeah. Okay. All right.
But most people will experience similar things. Like, people don't have energy, or they've got pain, or they're not sleeping good, or like they still experience those things, but they're experiencing it in a different way
because their body's shifting.
That's right. No, but we're all individual.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some days where I felt, tired, but I know that just comes with the course, and you just persevere and keep using it. And I've had good luck, running it every day. So, okay. What are some best practices that users could implement to ensure they have a great experience? And that could be things they do to kind of minimize herx, or it could be the amount of time or the consistency. I think consistency is probably a big one. But what are some of the best practices?
The best practice that anybody can do is work with our team and follow their instruction. If they follow that instruction, which is not very hard, all you do is you plug this in, you charge it, you take it off, you strap it on, and you go about your day. Lots of people will just put it on when they go to bed, and so there is no issues. And so I think the best practice for this is just to use it. If you don't use it, it's not going to work for you. And so if you're not committed when you buy it, don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's just not going to add to it's not going to be a good experience for anybody if you're not committed to your own health. Want to get better.
Yeah. So even if you only use it to start a minute a day, start and build up, work with the team, eventually get up to that half hour, then an hour, and then 90 minutes, and then things unfold. But you got to start, you got to commit.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in the first month, chances are you're going to be able to run everything that's on the device. It's the next phase, and the next phase that you might have a little experience with herxing. But people with Lyme disease, like saying that you might herx, that's not a fearful statement to them. They understand
No.
that they're going to have to experience a little bit more pain to get through the other side.
Yeah.
This is a disease. This is something that the body is really struggling with, and it's going to take the body to deal with it, not medication or.
Yeah. Super exciting. Yeah. So let's just, for the user, just so they get a sense of this, right? So I use this every day. I put it typically on my forearm like this. I hit start button, a little light comes on, and away I go. And I really like the forearm because I don't really bump anything else, versus the inside of my arm. I'll hit my watch sometimes. But
know where I wear mine? I wear mine just below my knee on the meaty part of my calf, and I don't even notice it. I don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
And I wear mine every day, and I've never had Lyme disease. I wear it because other things that go on just by the nature of our technology. It's very good for you.
Yeah. Awesome. What have you experienced using it, even though you haven't had Lyme?
Well, less pain. I sleep better. Those two things are pretty significant.
Yeah.
I don't feel as stressed because we have a great stress package in there. And so it just brings, you don't have to have Lyme for this device to help you feel better. But if you've got Lyme, you need this device to overcome it. But inflammation is really, really, that's one thing that we get back from the doctors. They say, not only is the Lyme gone, but so is the inflammation. And that's why I wear it. When I started hearing those kinds of conversations coming back from doctors, I started wearing the device. I don't have Lyme disease, but everybody's got inflammation. And inflammation is like the precursor to all disease.
Yeah, right. It's the root of everything.
So that's why I wear it. Frequencies are good for you. They're a good form of helping you overcome and just plain feel better.
Yeah. Super exciting. So this is part one, right? So I'm in day 19, 18, something like that of my wave one experience. And just for the listeners' edification, this is part one. And we're gonna do a part two, 90 days or so out. So I can come back and share my experience with Steven and his team, and kind of share it just with the world on what I've experienced. And I'm most excited about energy and sleep. Those would be the two things I am most keen to kind of report back on. I've got an Oura ring, so I've got good sleep. I've got 6 years of sleep data here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You'll learn something really interesting when you start using that Oura ring and start seeing the effect that you're having with your sleep.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll definitely look for that. I tried to track the sleep like a hawk. So.
So when we come back, to come back in 90 days or so, what I would do, why don't we come back and we will bring a few people with us that can answer some questions, and we'll bring a few more stories, but primarily we'd like to hear your story so everybody can hear your journey firsthand. And we love doing that because the stories are always profound. And does this device get everybody to 100%? Well, probably not. And the reason why is because you're not compromised 100% because of Lyme disease. And our focus is on Lyme disease. And so you can have a parasite and never have Lyme disease. You can have sleep issues or fatigue or pain. You don't have to have Lyme disease. And so it's just a good product for you to use for general use if you don't have Lyme, and it's fantastic if you do.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy journey.
Yeah. Well, thanks. We have my wife using it every night. I use it during the day. She uses it at night, and I don't know that she has Lyme. She doesn't have the symptoms of Lyme, but we just thought. I was like, hey, this is just a really good idea, just to kind of, reestablish baseline and give the body, all the reminders and the coaching that needs to function, at its best. So kind of excited to see how this unfolds for her as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, thanks so much for giving us some time today. I'm super excited about what you're doing at Fremedica. People can find you at Fremedica. That's 1E, FREMEDICA.com.
Yep.
And you've got, as you said, a 6-month return policy, which is, amazing.
That's because our goal is to help you get better, not sell you a product.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And I would just say for the listener, like their team is really responsive and genuinely compassionate. So if you're dealing with Lyme or someone that's dealing with Lyme, give Fremedica a try as a health coach and as a practitioner and who's had his own journey. I'm super excited about what they're doing, and we'll report back in 90 days on how I've fared with this amazing and super, super interesting technology. So thanks for being here.
Hey, I like telling people that the only thing they have to lose is Lyme.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, Stephen. Well, thanks again. And just stick around for a minute. We'll do a little housekeeping here.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
You bet. Hey, folks, this is EJS from Thrivality.com, and I just wanted to interrupt this podcast and video to share my experience with the Wave 1 device and technology. I actually recorded this podcast several weeks ago. Life got busy, and I wanted to actually wait to have my experience with the device. And now I'm in week 10 of using it, and I'm pleased to report that it works as advertised. My energy's up, my mental clarity has improved, my sleep has been enhanced, and I've actually put on a couple of pounds. And so I'm thrilled to report that the device works as advertised. Now, it's not the only thing I've done, or it's not the only thing I've added, during the last 10 weeks or so, but I've been at this game long enough to know that I wouldn't have made this progress, without this incredible technology that fills a really big gap in re-educating and sort of reminding the body and the immune system and how to establish or reestablish optimal cell-to-cell communication. So if you've dealt with Lyme or mold or complex illness, I strongly encourage you to give the Wave 1 device a try. See the show notes for discount code. You won't regret it. Thanks. Hey folks, and I should add that Fremedica, the manufacturer of the Wave 1 device, has a 6-month return policy, which is just unheard of and absolutely incredible, providing you with little risk for giving this incredible technology a try. So I hope that context helps in your decision-making process. Thanks. And the discount code, which I failed to mention, it's THRIVE. Visit Fremedica.com and use the discount code THRIVE. That's FREMEDICA.com. And that's 1E. So FREMEDICA.com, and use the discount code THRIVE for 10% off. Thanks.